Hello and welcome to our podcast, Belonging Beyond Borders. This podcast is brought to you by InterVarsity ISM at McGill. This podcast explores themes of culture, displacement, belonging, hearing stories from various community members. We are continuing our series called Do I Belong?
Hello everyone, welcome back to our podcast. I'm Jelena and I'm here with Ye Ying, who is now a student at McGill University, Montreal. And I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Alright, so I'm Yang and I study at McGill for Mathematics and Computer Science. So I came to Canada with a journey. The first stop of my trip is to Australia. I do it in my junior middle high school and I stay with my guardian parents, also my homestay parents. And then that's the first step I go to abroad outside from China. And then I go to America in my high school, senior middle high school, for physics competitions. So I go from Australia to America, and then now in CJAP, it's like a special system in Canada. And CJAP at university, I came to Canada for study and for opportunities.
Amazing. So you have moved 3 different countries before you turned 18.
Yeah,
That's wild.
that's wild.
Take us back to your first place, the first place you landed. So you landed in Australia.
Yeah,
And as I understand, 8th grade was when you
yeah.
went to Australia, so around 13 years old, I guess?
Almost.
Okay, amazing. So how was it like to first step out of the country and go to Australia? Take us to Melbourne.
Yeah, I think like there's culture shocks, but it's a low part. It's more like a wonderland for me because everything outside from my hometown is like unreal to me because it's totally different. Especially I live with a Western family and they have their culture, their living style. It's totally different from my traditional Asiatic family. So I have like meet some difficulties, especially in language things, because but my guardian parents, they're really nice because they're really interested into East Asian culture. So they treat me really well and they're willing to learn my language and treat me with my food. But actually, I have to still fit in because that's why I'm abroad. I want to experience more about the Western culture. So I'm struggling to fit in, but after those years coming out, I feel like I'm okay with fitting in but not fully fitting in, like have a distance. It's like at the beginning I really tried to make white friends and be with the popular group in the school and try to be like not like a foreigners. But I think this is because I'm low in self-esteem and confidence. But after those years abroad, I feel like I really grow in this aspect and I feel like I'm okay with like being with Chinese students and then I have some Western friends and I'm okay with being a foreigner.
Nice. And so you learned English in Australia.
Almost.
So you didn't know any English when you moved? Was it like that or did you know a little bit of English?
Actually, I know like the grammar stuff and the spelling and some basic stuff because my family, like, it's like a family issue because my grandma, she used to study in England in medicines. So she speaks a little bit English and my grandpa is like a translate guy for the government. So I was raised in more like a more Western cultural family a little bit. It's not that aesthetic, it's not that traditional, but they really emphasize in my education for me to learn English because they think it's really important and it's a good skill. So that's why like I learned English when I was really young. Like back in China, I go to like an institution called Lily English, and they provide me like a pure English environment in China. So there's how I learn my English. And then I go to Australia, but I find that it's totally different. Like what you learn there is like really grammatically correct, and spelling and those written language.
Yeah.
But when you spoke it, you have like a motto, like terms and maybe more casual ways to speak, and it's totally different. So I have problem to express myself because people will say like, "What are you saying?" And I was like, I feel embarrassed at the beginning, but then after more years I spent there, I feel like comfortable fitting in the culture.
Nice. I feel like a lot of times before we move abroad, we almost have like these assumptions of how it would be, but then once you land in the country, you're surprised by so many things. Did you have that surprise? Was it a positive surprise? Was
Of
it a negative
course.
surprise?
I think I got both.
Yeah.
Like the positive thing is really liberty and freedom. It's like nobody gonna judge you by your appearance, by your outfit, by your body shape, and by your hair color, eye color, and the way you behave. Like even though like you're probably a little bit creepy or not fitting in, but nobody gonna judge you for that, and they'll accept you be who you are. So that's the best part. I feel like that way because for me, like the culture in China is more like you have to fitting in for the environment, and you don't want to be so distinctive. Yeah.
You don't want to stand out.
Yeah.
You want to almost conform to like
Conform to the environment.
whatever. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I feel like I can express myself, and I can be different. I have my own character, and I can show that I'm not gonna be in the same line with you. I have to insist my point. But the negative part is, I guess, I never thought about that way, but I think it's a negative part is like people here is more distant, I guess. Like because of you're trying to fit in the environment in China, so people have like a closer relationship. Like really, it's a relationship, no environment. Like you want to be like close to the others and have like a good relationship, and usually it's not beneficial oriented. It's more like relationship no oriented. It's like we value more about our relationship, and we want even though sacrifice some of the benefit of ourselves to keep a good relationship with you. But I feel like in Western culture, especially Australia, I feel that people are a really bit cold, a little bit they will insist in their rights, and they'll be like, even though we probably broke our relationship, but I'm gonna defend myself. So they will not give in for fighting back. So that's something made me feel like a little bit disappointed.
That's a very different take because you're so on one end you are struggling with coming from a culture where community is almost forced on you, and there's that forced community where people may not actually want to be together, but you're forced to stick together. But then now you're in this new environment where people are trying to be more individual, and if that clashes, they're very comfortable saying that, like, we disagree or we don't necessarily want to be together, and people separate as a result. How did you balance that as a 13, 14-year-old something, especially when you're so young, and like did you long for community in that sense, or were you excited to take on that like individualistic sort of?
I think I'm developing
culture.
the individualistic because I at that time when I was in Australia, I don't have like that much of Asian friends. More it's like a natural like Western friends.
Yep.
And they are really grown up in Melbourne, and they have their own friend circle. So I really don't fit in, but they really treat me kindly, and they will give me good questions. It's like, why you behave that way, or like, what do you think? So this really digging me deep inside my heart to say like, what happens? What's the difference? How I gonna deal with this problem? What's my opinion?
So after Australia, you moved to the U.S.
Yeah.
Take us back to that time. What was that like? Where did you move to?
I moved to Boston
Yep.
for studying, and I feel like there's the culture difference between Australia and America.
Okay.
I think Australia is more like a British culture, I guess. So it's more conservative, but America is more casual, I guess, relaxed and chilling. Especially, I talked to the professor there. They're really willing to talk to you privately and give you some lifelong suggestions. For me, like I learned from my American professor is like, she told me like I need more flexibility. It's like everything, the time zone and the time slot in schedule in Australia and also in China is fixed. Like you have to do certain things at certain time, and it's all fixed. But I feel like the most different things in America is like you have the freedom to choose your own time thing. Like the time management is really important, that you can do like whatever you want, but you have to finish a task and you can arrangement your time freely. So that's the main difference I feel like that way. So she told me like I'm too linked on those time schedule, but there's always some accidental stuff coming to your life. So she told me like I need more flexibility in my life so that I could be more okay to deal with time management after I graduate from school, right? Leave the school to the society, and you have to manage your time wisely.
Well, that's good advice.
Yeah.
You mentioned that like Australia was more conservative.
Yeah.
So can you like maybe explain on what parts you felt that Australia was more conservative to what you're now experiencing in the States?
I think Australian is more like, for me, I feel like they're more, how to say that? It's more like willing to help, but they don't really feel attached to you, and they will not offer you extra help, you know? It's like if you ask them, they will help you and they will give you suggestions. But I feel like for Americans, they're more warm-hearted and they really have the spirit of Puritans. So they will help you to the end, you know?
Okay.
Even though I asked for like an initial step for like a small help, but they will ask like for your whole life and your for long term of suggestions, and they will help you from the beginning to the end and even give you more help and suggestions. They will care about your whole being, not only this task. So I feel like it's more conservative in Australia. And at the beginning I go to America, I don't feel comfortable to share everything for myself to a stranger because I feel like they might laugh at me or they don't really care about me. But after a while I stay in America, I feel like when they ask this, they're really meant to be that way. They're really meant to be like thinking about in your shoes and take that perspective from you and to think about the task and how they can help you. So I feel like that's a more warm-hearted way.
So you sense that the Americans were a bit more like willing to take interest on you and get to know you more and help you with things at a more personal level for growth and development.
Yeah, and they're more open, I guess.
Like more open-minded.
Open-minded, yeah.
That's nice. And so after that, you moved to Canada.
Yeah.
Why Canada?
I think it's more like an opportunity stuff.
Okay.
My father gave me another choice to move to England.
Ooh, okay.
But at that time, like, I don't have like a good relationship with my father. So I didn't take his suggestions. I think Canada is better because we have like relatives from my mother's side, so it's more like an opportunity stuff. I choose my mother, so I go to Canada. And I also think like Canada is like a good place for me to study because it's close to America, so there's more opportunities because Canada and America is linked together. If I finish my school in Canada, it's also permitted to study in America, so that's more opportunities for me. So I came to Canada.
That's nice, yeah. And you came to Canada for CEGEP?
Yeah, for CEGEP.
How was that like?
Oh,
Did you have to learn French?
Yeah. At that time, when I first came to Quebec, I mean, like, we don't necessarily need to force us to learn French, but after the policies changed, for now, they force them to learn French. But yeah, I learned French before I came to Canada, actually. Because I was interested in French, so I learned a little bit, and I was worried like I cannot start a conversation with a native speaker here, so I learned a little bit French beforehand. And I feel like the CEGEP here is more like really struggling, I guess, because I go to like a really science-oriented CEGEP. It's more like most of the students there they study health science and pure applies. I'm those students, so they're really struggling, and everyone when I feel like the passion for them to do researches, especially every week or every day I do my lunch in the corner like the hallway, and they will give me research papers. It's like, do you want to sign this paper for me? Do you want to participate in our research? I get this every day almost, so I really feel they're passionate for studying, and I feel like it's a really good environment. It's totally different from the way I being America or Australia, because it's CJAB, so it's more serious. But also like, I think Canada is more like a serious country. Like people take it serious, and people are more calm, but they will not be so casual, and they will be more like, I'm gonna take this and work on it, and I'll be hard doing on it.
So just for those viewers who might not be familiar with CEGEP, CEGEP is a particularly in Quebec, the province of Quebec, and it's considered, I think, 12th and like 13th grade after your traditional high school, before university. So after CEGEP, you joined McGill.
Yeah.
And you're almost done.
Yeah.
Almost graduated.
Last
That's
year.
Amazing. How has that journey been? How's McGill been?
Actually, the first 2 years of my life in McGill is COVID. So I actually don't have like the opportunity to enjoy my university life in McGill because everything is locked down. I stay in my apartment to do online courses. But at that time, I really met some good professors. And for those time, like I contact with more about the professor stuff, and I do researches, and I do like help with the lab. And I met like a really good professor, and he is like a good guy because he supports women in computer science.
Oh.
So I talked to him a lot for the opportunities for women in computer science field, and he gave me really good suggestions. So that's the first 2 years. It's like really plain for studying and really boring. But for the last 2 years, I'm in McGill. The lockdown is released, and everyone starting to came out to the street, and we can go back to school and in person to go to the classroom. I met really good guys, and we have more connections, and there's a lot of like conversation time and many opportunities for you to talk with people. So I met different people, like especially for those who want to start their own business, for those who want to go to Google and maybe Apple, the big company, for those who want to be more like a scientist and who want to do research for their whole life. I talk to those people and feel like, oh my god, that's so interesting, and people got their dreams and they're really pursuing their dreams. So I got to be motivated for what they're doing, and I was started thinking like what I gonna do. And I have exactly no clue like what I gonna do because I don't know what happens in the future, and I have no idea like I started thinking, and I started searching for philosophy because I don't know like why I'm here. I have the sense of losting, and I don't know what's the meaning of life for me to be here. And because they have their own life and I admire their life, but I don't know what's for me to be living in this world for my life. So that's how I came to church, and I came to Christianity because at the time I starting to think about the meaning of life and where I came from, where I'm gonna go. If our life is so short, and if there's no eternal life and no eternity, then why I'm pursuing eternity? I want to, there's in Chinese philosophy like you want to make your name and stay in history for eternity. But everyone who have rational thinking, it's impossible for eternity for leave your name in history. Because people will forget you. Especially for yourself, you think about yourself, like when you read about history, you will think, oh, this is like a history person, but you will not remember him, right?
Yeah.
So it's like nobody will remember you in history if you make your name in the history. So it's not eternity. So what's the true eternity is? I was thinking about the eternity stuff, like why I'm pursuing eternity. And then I came to Christianity. Especially my family, they are more like a Buddhism background. And they were like, we will gonna live again after we die, and if you do good things, you will become human next life. But if you do bad things, you will probably be an insect or be a fish, be a silly stuff. And I don't think those. What if like I didn't do enough good stuff? And how do you define goodness? Like different people have different way of thinking of goodness. It's like, from my perspective, I think this is doing good for you, but for your perspective, probably not good for you. So who gonna be the judge to define I'm doing good, I'm doing bad? I'm looking for a judge and a righteous judge, and also alternative. So that's also point to Jesus Christ in Christianity. So I came to church and find my identity, and now I was like, I think I was more okay with pursuing my dream at the same time pursuing Jesus. It's like my dream is what Jesus wants me. I don't separate them. I think it's like my dream is what Jesus wants me to do. It's not my own way of thinking or my own pattern. So I think those are the meaning I find out in Christianity, and that really helps me a lot for fitting in here.
Did you learn more about Christianity once you moved to Canada, or did you have a little bit of that in the US and in Australia?
I think no, because at those time I was super far from God, and especially I don't think about those questions, like I'm too young, so I don't have those deep thought about what my life meaning is, what my goal is, what I'm pursuing. I just enjoy my life, and I was happy with have good food, shopping with friends, hanging out to natural park like that. But I really find it's God calling me for Community Canada, even though I don't know Him. Because my first guardian parents, because when I first arrived in Canada, I was still under 18, so I'm not legally to stay alone. My guardian parents is a Christian family. So their motto is love is to endure. And they told me a lot about Jesus, but I don't think I will be a Christian someday. But after I left them and after I came to McGill, this years after I arrived to Canada, there's many miracle things happen, and from my experience, I think like God is revealing Himself to me. So gradually, I came to Christianity, and now I was okay with that. I can walk with God, and I can feel God, and I can give my life to Jesus, I guess.
Any final thoughts that you would like to leave our audience? Say, I don't know, young Chinese girls leaving home for the first time at like 15, 16, I don't know, or any other advice or recommendation or something that you would like to give to a younger version of you.
Yeah, I was thinking about this question too. Actually, I was really thinking about this in my younger age, like what advice I would give to me when I was 10 years old ahead. Like, I was thinking like the younger the better, actually. It's like, it's not because of your young, like, youth, so you got pride with your age, but actually it's about Jesus. It's like, for me, like, I really be grateful for the opportunities for me to accept Jesus in a young age, because in such a young age we are facing many different difficult problems. We have to make lifelong decisions such as what majors, what kind of job I'm gonna stay in Canada or not, where I'm gonna live, and many decisions that is like affect your life in the future. Usually people don't change their jobs after they have their jobs. I know people will change, but usually people will stay in their whole job for their whole life, and those are also possibilities. And you don't know like what decisions you make for now will affect your future, and you have to take the consequences for that. But if you accept Jesus and you have like a guide who take your hands, walk you through the pathway, he will give you the greedy choice, not the greedy choice, but for us, we use our own limited wisdom. We make the greedy choice for now, like it seems the best, but we don't predict the future for how it's gonna be in the future. But if we have Jesus in our life, like we can know like the decision we're making now is eternally in the long term is the best choice for you. So I think my suggestions for the young girls in my age is like when God is reaching out to you, like God is chasing after us all the time. But I mean like there's opportunities God is reaching his hand to you. So when there's opportunities where God reaching his hand to you, I think you should take the opportunities to grab his hand firmly. Do not wait for until you are 60 or 80s to accept him. Because if you are waiting for like your 80s to accept Jesus, you're missing a lot of blessings. It's like you're with a lot of beneficial stuff, right? For practical view, like you're losing your gifts. It's like if you accept Jesus in your 20s, you have like maybe 40 years of blessings. You can receive a lot of gifts from God. But when you maybe receive it until your 80s, there's nothing wrong. You still get the salvation, but you get less gifts. So my suggestion is like when there's chance, just grab the hand of Jesus.
I love that. Thank you so much, Ying, for being on our podcast. This was wonderful. Thank you.